Welcome back to Hashtag Simplicity. This is season number 6, episode number 1. And for this episode, or for this season, actually, let me say this, right? I wanted this season to be different from every other season. I know last season was completely different because last season we really focused on Christianity. We focused on how I expose my value to you guys and just to set the tone of the rest of the seasons that will come on this podcast. As I told you guys, I'm a Christian message believer in the message of the prophet William Marion Branham. You can go search it up and you get more information on who that is and what it is. But that's my faith, that's my belief as a Christian. And I would like to use my platform to not to convince people to follow what I believe or to convert people. I am just exposing my faith in what God has allowed me to be able to do and have. In everything that I do, I would like to put some little faith that I have towards my God, and not necessarily do an exposure of it, but to stand for it and show the glory of God in my life. And of course, you guys know this entire podcast is all about also my journey of overcoming battles and things like that. So I wanted to use that. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I did not accomplish anything that I've accomplished without the help of God. I did not become who I am without the help of God. Either be in the way I think, the creativity, or overcoming challenges, whatever it is, writing the books, projects that I may come up with, none of it will be possible without the Lord Jesus Christ, who is my God. So I am not ashamed of putting it out there. And I'm just hoping that it can inspire, it can, empower people out there, young listeners, old listeners, as much as you guys are, wherever you guys are around the world. So this season, I'm titling it, The Power of the Mind. Right? And for this very first episode, I call it Unleashing the Power of Your Thoughts, the key to unlocking your potential. And we'll talk about a lot of characters, give examples, life stories, and reality, things that can be relatable. All right, and we'll be focusing, obviously, on this episode. We'll be focusing on our daily thoughts and how they shape our lives. And also another reason why I think this episode number 1, is really important is because I know a lot of people that have incredible ideas, but just don't have, or they fail to act upon them. Maybe it's due to fear, doubts, or just lack of directions, lack of guidance. All right. Anyways, you know what I mean. So with that being said, right, we also want to focus on empowering, everybody that's listening to turn their thoughts into meaningful actions. That's the goal of this podcast, and that's the goal of this episode. So let's go ahead and start to talk about this. And when we start about this, while we start, I want to focus on one main example, which is in my mind, David and Goliath. I know we all know the story of David and Goliath, the small guy that beat up the big guy. But one thing we don't realize is the thought of faith that David had. David knew his capacity. And that's the number one thing that I would like for you guys to remember in this episode, right? In this journey, of course, of trying to manifest your thoughts, is know who you are, know your capacity, know your value, know your abilities, know your strength. And knowing those things, it will set the foundation, the base of how far you can go, or or just how long you can last. I'll give you an example, right? If an eagle did not know its capacity, it would not fly from wherever, like 100 kilometer or miles away, to just try to catch a fish that's 100 miles away from him. No. In order for an eagle, no matter how good the vision is, right, for him to know that I got a chance to get that fish under the water, I have to be in a certain distance that I can fly at a certain speed. And that's the same thing with us human beings, right? We should know ourselves. Sometimes we get into, I'll give you an example of me as a college student. I pick my classes based off of not just the fact that I gotta take those classes to graduate, but also because I want to see, or I know how strong I am at the moment to be able to take those classes, right? Like, I would not want to take a class that's going to be overloading in my current schedule. Maybe it can be helpful, or I can take it next semester when I have a different schedule, and when I'm more available to handle the pressure or the workload. But as of now, I can't be able to take it, right? I know all that, and it helps me make the correct decisions. Knowing your capacity helps you make the correct and the right decisions. So David had the thought of faith. He knew he was going to be able to beat that giants no matter how many people stood against him. He knew it, and he was going to live and stand on it. And we all know the story how David just through that power of thought, God was able to respect and honor his faith, giving him the strength to go ahead and overcome Goliath, right? Many of us faces Goliaths in front of us on a daily basis. I'll give you an example. The first Goliath that most people face in their day is getting up from their bed and going to work, or just getting off their bed. That's the first Goliath. You may ask me, what do you mean? Look, think about it, right? The day before, you had a long day and you were just trying to rest. You just wanted that sleep. And then now you get that sleep. And the morning comes, the sun is out. You gotta go to work, or you gotta go to school, and you're done your bed. It just feels so comfortable. You just want to add 5 more minutes. Your clock is there just making noise. You just want to add 5 more minutes. But then you know that you have a purpose, you have a goal that you have to achieve. It's just getting up, from that comfort zone, to start your day. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. But it's all in the mind, the power of the thoughts, right? So, and another thing that I want to talk about is the science of actionable thinking. The science of actionable thinking. There's a psychological part and the spiritual parts of thoughts, that leads us to have certain behaviors. In the book of Proverbs, it says this: as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And but I'm also preached that sermon on, I believe, a thinking man's filter. And a thinking man's filter. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Think about it, right? Your behavior will never go contrary to how your heart is. If you have a pure heart, your behavior, your nature is pure. if you have a evil heart, your nature and your behavior will just follow it, right? It would just follow it. And but the random tells us that the heart is the control tower of human beings. I'm a person that believes that the spiritual aspect of life or thoughts is the driving factor of our psychological thoughts and actions. Before it gets to our thoughts, it has to go through our hearts. And but Branham tells us that if in your heart you have a question, and the Bible even tells us that if there's a question in your heart condemns you from something, don't do it. That means that something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. All right, now let's focus on why people act on their thoughts, or why people don't act on their thoughts. I meant the most common barrier that I realize, right, that people don't act on their thoughts is fear. Fear. Before procrastination, there's fear. I'll give you an example. I started this project of #simplicity back in 2021. And I started it as a podcast called The Clock Talk. And at first it was, going well, being consistent and all this. And then I posted like one post about it on Instagram, my Instagram at the time. And then every single time I'll upload a video or not a podcast audio episode, I would not share it. And the reason why is because I feared how people around me will react or saw it. Back then, 2021, I was 19, 18, turning 19. So, I feared that has been the problem that I've had for many years of my life, was the fear of how my environment will react to things that I do. It kind of felt like it's not really what people expect me doing, so I gotta live up to what people expect me to do and all that. So that was a fear for me. Now, I never feared fear of failure. The only fear of failure that I would say that I felt at the moment was because I was not able to overcome my fear of what people think of me doing what I'm doing, which was the podcast. Because on that podcast, you guys can go back on the podcast, just tap The Clock Talk on Spotify. It's still there. You'll find some episodes there of how I'm talking about certain things, and that's just my mind, free mind, and so I feared how people would see that, and through that it created the fear of failure. I needed exposure, but I was not able to take the step to expose myself for the contents that I was posting. Therefore, I started fearing that, okay, I'm just going to fail in this thing. And that is one fear that most people have before procrastinating. And as soon as you start having that fear of failure, you're not sure of the outcome, procrastination comes on. Procrastination is going to be the next step. Because your mind or your heart is already settled on the fact that you're not going to succeed. So now your body will just follow it and, not even put effort, because you're already convinced from the inside that this thing is not going to work out. This thing is not a good idea. Now, apart from those two things, procrastination and fear of failure, there is lack of resources. Now, lack of resources depends, right? It does not necessarily follow in the same line as fear of failure and procrastination, but lack of resources has its own path. And here's what I would say, right? Lack of resources can be a stage of grace for some people. Why do I say that? I'll give you an example. I went to Africa, to Congo, in August, and I've met a couple of my friends from like back kindergarten, elementary school, and we've talked. These people got some good ideas to succeed in life. They have some good ideas. They want to make it out in life, but they don't have the resources. And I'm looking back, and I'm like, I live in America. I have all these resources, but not even once those ideas cross my mind. Even now that they're crossing my mind, I can execute them, but since I don't have the vision, the clear vision, I won't be able to execute it to its perfection the way those people are thinking. But I have resources. That I call it grace. I have that grace. They don't have that grace. I don't call it luck. Or, no. I call it grace. It suited God to give me those resources than to give it to them. And God is all-knowing. He knows why He didn't allow them to have it, allow me to have it, and still not use them. But lack of resources is another reason or another barrier why people don't act on their thoughts. Have you ever been in a position where it's like nighttime and you're just thinking about your day, thinking about your plan, thinking 6 months ahead? What do you want your life to look like? I'm the type of person that I like to think like that, right? I like to think 6 months ahead. I like to think what is my plan after this 6 months, after this year is over, after this month, after this week is over. What is the plan, right? Now, people that do not have resources, and that include network, and that include money. People that do not have those resources, it affects the way they think. Therefore, they give up. But here's the thing, right? I believe that in every problem, there's a solution. Unless it's a sin that's unforgivable, unpardonable, then that's something else. But every other thing, I believe that there's a solution to it. Lack of resources, for example. I would say, this is my opinion. This is me, Rufin, saying this. Lack of resources solution. You guys may have many other solutions, but these are the true things that I would say is the solution. Number one, it's not the right time. Just wait on the right time. Keep the same project, keep the same plan, but just wait on the right time. Number two, be ready to put yourself on the line. Risk it. I would say, if you believe in the project, if you believe in the thoughts, if you believe in the plan, take the risk. Take the risk to try to find alternative path that will lead you there. I'll give you guys an example of my personal life, right? My goal and my dream is to be a lawyer. Now, in all my years since I got out of high school till now I'm about to graduate, I've not just focused on one path. No. In fact, I found the path of law super hard, that I found alternative path that created doors for me. I'll give you an example. As soon as I started college, I was majoring in criminal justice and political science, double major. And I realized that this path is going to be a long path. I need to find something that's going to be an alternative, in my life, a plan B. So I became a substitute teacher. Now, with the goal of obviously creating a plan B, a second income, in case the law path does not work. But I knew that I won't be able to live free of mind, knowing that I never finished that journey, which is my dream. I never finished that journey of my dream. I wouldn't be free of mind. So I shifted my thoughts from the education field being my plan B to the education field being another way of me exposing myself to knowing better what I want to do in the law field. Today, I can be able to say after 3 years of, being in the education field, starting as a substitute teacher to math teacher, all that. So today, I'm able to say that because of my education background in middle school, I'm glad that I've chosen the path of, focusing on family law, because now I have some expertise, some experience of how family works, just based on my experience as a teacher. Now, other than that, I went on to even get into, the Air Force. I went on to practice a lot of things. All that just so I can accumulate enough knowledge that even though school may not be the only or the path that will lead me to becoming a lawyer, at least when I'm becoming a lawyer, I'm getting in there with a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that I necessarily did not get it from just school, but also from different paths. And that's one thing I would say, when it comes to lack of resources. Just find alternative paths that will allow you to get the resources needed to fulfill the goal that you have in your mind. And lastly, external discouragement. That is a really big thing. We live in a world where not everybody wants to see your success. That's a fact. We live in a world where not everybody would like to see you succeed. It's unfortunate. Even your own family members will also not like to see you succeed. That's the truth. We've seen many cases of it. Your closest friends, same thing. Jealousy is a spirit that rolls around, and will get anybody. So, external discouragement is another key factor why people don't act on their thoughts. And just like I told you guys earlier, I had that fear of how people will react to it, criticism of people around me, and that's why even most of the things that I've done, the projects that I've done, I really never try to get support from people around me, but more likely expose myself outside, because I knew the people around me will not really know the value of who I am, because they're just so used to me, and the value of the projects or things that I'm doing, because they're used to me. But yeah, that's another thing I would say. External discouragement is another barrier that you need to overcome in order for you to act upon your thoughts. And if you've got to, do like me, expose yourself outside so people outside can respect you, then bring it back in, in your surrounding, where people now will see, oh, this is not the same person that those people out there are seeing. There's another side of this person that we've not discovered, and that brings also respect, So now let's shift a little bit and talk about practical steps to harness the power of the mind. I try to do this one, right? I try to do this step, and it does not work with everybody. I will say this. I try to write journal. Journal of ideas and how we'll, fulfill all of them. And I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I have like more than 5 journals with different ideas in there. Do I know where all of them are at? Nope. But that's maybe something that works with someone else. But to me, it just does not work. And if I was to do like one of those episodes of, things that you can't live without, I would say my laptop. I go with my laptop everywhere. I have everything. Whenever idea comes on my mind, it's on my laptop. So have something that you can put your thoughts in or save your thoughts. And then from time to time, go back to that thing whenever you discover something that can be a next step to your idea and making it a fulfillment. Go back to that thing, add on, that step, And another thing I will also say is dream you think about frequently. Dreams you think about frequently. That's another step to harness the power of your mind. For me, like I told you, I like to think of myself as a lawyer. That's my dream. My long life dream is to be a lawyer, and I would do anything to achieve that goal. No matter how long it takes, no matter how many paths I have to take, I'll take it. And here's the thing, right? When I actually started teaching, I changed my major into teaching. I stopped following the path that I originally started with, right? I completely changed it. And by doing that, I realized I love teaching. But there's something in my mind, in my heart, that's like not satisfied. A year after, I went back into law. Because I just couldn't get that out of my mind. That's a dream, And it even got to a point where I wanted to be a lawyer so bad that I started to dress up daily as a lawyer, just to put myself in that shoe already, prepare myself mentally, psychologically. If I have to dress up in suits every day, no problem. Put on some good styles, But those are the actions that I did to harness the power of my mind. To know that I'm dressing up like this, people are seeing me like this because I want them to already think of me as who I'm planning on becoming. I'm giving them a preview of what I'm about to become. And around this time, I spoke highly about my dream as a lawyer. And another step is start small. Don't start big. You have a plan, start small. There's nothing wrong. You may have $1 million. Actually, if you have 1 million, go all out. But if you have nothing, start small. Small, reach 5 people, 10 people. Create a network. Do not be embarrassed of taking your steps. Don't be like me. Fear of, discouragement from your surrounding. No. Start small. Go easy about it. Take one actionable step toward your thoughts every day, no matter how small they are or how big they are. That will help you. And lastly, surround yourself with the right influences, communities, mentor, even watching inspiring content or listening to people like me that has gone through some little things, in the 21 years of their lives. It helps. Create a safe atmosphere, an inspiring and empowering atmosphere around you that will make your mind tickle and you do not be at rest until you fulfill or come up with a step to accomplish your goal. That is surrounding yourself with a good community, with the right influences. What you listen is what your body will react to, what your heart will react to, what you see. I believe the prophet talks and says that the eyes is the heart, is the door to your heart. What you see influences really how you behave. So keep those things in mind. And as we conclude in this episode, I would just like to encourage you guys to write down one thought that you've been sitting on, and commit to taking one step at a time. Act upon it. It may be a short-term goal that you want to accomplish throughout the week. If it's waking up early, think about how you may be able to do it. If it's gotta be cut down the workload that you have throughout the day so you can have enough time to sleep, do it. If it is setting up your alarm, do it. Whatever it is, create short-term goals and get a habit of it, and your mind will be so much used to accomplishing small steps and short-term goals that it will want to tackle bigger things. Just like a baby will not eat something big at a young age. They won't be able to chew bones at a young age. They have to be fed small things first, and then they reach a certain level where they want to test bones and break them bones. So that's my encouragement for you guys this morning as you listen to this podcast. Other than that, I invite you guys to engage with this episode. Share your thoughts, the steps that I've talked about on your social media, and also just go ahead and just hashtag simplicity on your post, or tag me in it. I would like to repost it, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode as we go through this power of the mind. Until next time, bye bye.